Hello, and welcome everybody to Unscripted Intelligence, a podcast where we talk about human intelligence, artificial intelligence, how they intersect, and how they impact everything from education to the workforce.
On this podcast, we interview innovators, change makers, and thought leaders who are shaking things up and making waves. These conversations are unfiltered and uncharted as we make space for what isn't being discussed. And these conversations are always
unavoidable.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Ament, the co-president of the Human Intelligence Movement and chief academic officer for ProSolve. The Human Intelligence Movement is a grassroots community dedicated to ensuring that all humans have the uniquely human intelligences they need to succeed and thrive in our AI world. It's great to be here with everyone.
My name is Arvin, the co-founder of ProSolve, a company that is dedicated to building the human skills that students need in an AI-driven world. I'm also your adaptability enthusiast. I'm super stoked to be here and to be hosting this podcast. Thank you guys for joining these live conversations. Let's get into it.
Let's go.
Yo, what is up, Michelle? Welcome back.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here for our final episode of the Redesign and Rebuild series. We've been meeting with so many people and having so many conversations about what really needs to be rebuilt and redesigned in education, in the workforce, and really in our society. And it's been fun.
It has been fun. It's been really dope. I feel like we've come out of this conversation with a lot of takeaways, a lot of thought leadership, a lot of just understanding and awareness of what's going on in the world. Which brings me to a question. Can you share what is like your biggest unavoidable truth or your biggest takeaway from this series, Rebuilding and Redesigning?
Good question. So many things. But I think I'm really thinking about what Shannon said last time we were together about human counterforce with AI, and when we use AI, what AI is good at, but what we do better as humans. And maybe I'm not saying that right. Not better, but like, how do we balance AI with our human intelligence? And this week you were all about Google Vids, like this. So why? Okay, that's pure AI. How is that going to elevate? What's the human counterforce? Like, what's the human balance there?
Oh my gosh, I actually have not thought about that question at all because I've just been so in love with it. Mm-hmm. To me, I actually don't think I have an answer to that. I think it might take me some time to think about it, but the Google Vids thing for me is just it to me is like a perfect example of a tool and a resource that just makes it so much easier to do what we're already doing. It doesn't feel like it's going to replace much. It feels like it is going to just enhance what we're already doing because it truly is just kind of a base platform. So,
I think here, knowing you like I do, I think what it would do, the human counterforce, would be that it would allow you to do what you do really well, which is deliver the story, tell,
that's a good point.
Be kind of passionate about something and really show up as your full self and not have to worry about the content or the slides or the video production. You can just really present and be on stage.
I totally agree. The idea that I have another tool in my belt that can just take what my thoughts, my ideas, all of the creative things I'm thinking or wanting to communicate, and then tell it how to communicate it or have it pick up notes directly out of a conversation. And it just, it's kind of like a perfect mesh for me. To me, it speaks really, really, really the language of the intelligence age and kind of this idea of a human AI symbiotic relationship. So
very cool. Well, we could probably talk all night, but we have a really fun show to bring some guests in. And tonight is all about the human intelligence movement and this idea of rebuilding and redesigning innovation. And so we are going to get into it and talk about kind of the messy human process of redesigning organizations from the inside out.
Yeah, let's do it. As you guys know, this is a community conversation. So we want everyone who is watching, thank you guys for tuning in. We want you to participate in this conversation. So any of the questions that we toss out to the guests or the guests toss out to us, please feel free to answer in the comments. We will put them on screen. We will read them. If you say something really, really dope, we might even bring you on screen. That might be a good way to end off this series of rebuilding.
Totally. We should do that tonight. We should do that tonight.
I would be down. I don't know, because one of our guests is a little volatile, so I'm not exactly sure if they're gonna mesh well. So we'll just kind of play that out and see how it works. But thank you guys for joining. Michelle, can you kind of introduce our guests and bring them on for us?
Absolutely. First, let's see who's joining us. Feel free to drop in the comment, whether you're on YouTube or LinkedIn, your name, where you're joining from, just so we can get a feel for who all's out there in our conversation. Yeah. So tonight we have two special guests who represent the vision and the operational heartbeat of the human intelligence movement. First, we have Chris Foltz, who is a transformation strategist. He's a startup advisor and an inspirational speaker whose life story has really redefined what's possible. So Chris has lots of roles. I've never met someone that wears so many hats and does so many different things. So I can't even cover them all. I'm just going to tell you a couple of things. He's the managing director of Responsible Solutions and the global entrepreneur in resident at Founder Institute. So he's got this whole startup. How do you do things? How do you redesign and bring innovation? And he has really shaped ecosystems on 5 continents. So that's pretty impressive. Right. He has a journey. It's kind of like yours, Arvin, from addiction to adversity. Thank you. You just finished my sentence for me. From addiction and adversity to resiliency and reimagination. So I'm excited because Chris is the director of strategic initiatives with Human Intelligence Movement. Welcome, Chris.
So excited to be here. I almost feel like the word unfiltered was added because Jena and I are part of this. So that's really exciting. And I never say the word adversity correctly, even though it's probably in my bio. So thank you so much for having me. This is exciting.
Glad you're here. Next up, we have Jena Crossland. And Jena is a mission-driven, lovely woman who has a background spanning healthcare, athletics, and nonprofit sectors. Jena is known for bringing clarity to complexity, and she supports us with the vision, the people, the process, everything behind the movement, and the Unscripted Intelligence podcast. So when we were saying we're going to bring somebody on, she's probably freaking out a little bit. She's like, how can I be on the podcast and produce the podcast at the same time? And I know that she's going to be able to do that. We wouldn't be who we are today without Jena and Chris coming together to really help us execute a vision and this innovation. And we've done some amazing things over the last several months. And so tonight we're here to talk about some of those things.
Yeah. Welcome, Jena.
I am happy to be here, and I am definitely excited to be on as a guest with Chris. It's a great pair, and I agree, Chris, they definitely had to add Unfiltered in there for that.
That's true.
I love it. I love it. Thank you guys so much. I just want to point out, I see Alan, some person named Alan has kind of hopped into the comments. He said he's a part of GRACE, Global Council for AI in Education, Flower Mound, Texas. I don't know what that is, but I want to know more about GRACE. So if you have a link, Alan, you want to toss in the chat, I would love to click on that and learn a little bit more about it later. But let's hop straight into it. As you guys know, we are ending our series on rebuilding and redesigning. In this series, we've talked about everything from the workplace to education to upper education to the classroom. There's a lot of things that we've discussed in this idea of rebuilding and redesigning. And so in this episode, this is going to be our final culmination of that concept, that idea. And we specifically want to talk about the human intelligence movement and just movements in general. So first question I want to toss out here, okay? When we're talking about human intelligence, what are we trying to protect? What is the goal? What are some of the human intelligence characteristics or things that our movement is really, really, really trying to promote and to protect in a world where AI is present?
Well, I mean, do you want to go, Jena? I'm sure if you.
I would say that the capacity for like connection and creativity would be two of the things that I think matter the most right now.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with what Jen is saying. You know, I think oftentimes this phrase, the human condition, is thrown out, right? And the very things that make us flawed as individuals is what make us great as a society. And I think sometimes when things become so easy, if AI makes our life easy and we stop thinking for ourselves, we lose some of that luster that has gotten us this far as a species, for that matter, right? And what I'm noticing often is that, you know, it's sometimes, unless you read the outputs of things like artificial intelligence, it's hard to fail, right? But as humans, if we don't have the ability to react to failure, then we never know what it's really like to succeed in the first place. So I'm really kind of focusing on this idea of making sure we don't lose the ability to fix ourselves as individuals, as communities, as societies at large. And I think that's my biggest concern when it comes down to AI and ultimately the down prioritizing of human intelligence in society.
Come on.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, Chris, you basically what you made me think of is saving ourselves from ourselves. Like this idea that we're not really competing with AI, but instead this race to make sure that we don't lose humanity and lose ourselves in the process. Because it's really about what you talk about with making sure that we set ourselves up for experiences where we can fail, where we can try new things, where we can explore, where we can innovate. And if we rely too heavily on AI to have all the right answers, we won't keep that space for ourselves to continue to be adaptable and resilient. And I think is that accurate? What you're saying there is like almost saving us from our.
Yeah, I mean, go to AI and ask it a question about yourself, right? Like, you know, some people would call me a polymath, right? I don't use the capital P here. But if I were to go to ChatGPT and say, you know, am I a polymath? Of course, not only is it going to say that I am, it's going to say that I'm the greatest and everything, right?
Totally.
When it's almost like the best, most flattering thing of all time. But I promise you, where all of us spend a lot of our lives focusing on all of our successes, it's the reactions to our failures, right? Understanding these gaps that we both create and have, that's our legacy. And I cannot let a box tell me something good about myself that is simply not true. Okay, so it's about kind of evaluating every single day, like, are we doing things for the right reasons? Because if we don't, they will end for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Jena, I know you're going to hop in. I'll let you go first if you want, and then I'll toss my 2 cents in.
I mean, I completely agree with everything y'all are saying with that. Like, if we don't slow down and reflect on who we are as people, I don't think there is room for innovation or growth. Because I think that with innovation, it doesn't happen in constant movement. It has to happen in the moments where you take time to view like the bigger picture of it all.
But is it just about slowing down? Don't you have to know how to reflect, how to be self-aware? What do you think?
Absolutely. I would agree with that. I think that you have to be able to take the time and be able to be vulnerable enough to reflect on yourself and as a team as well. And I think that that's something that we do within this group right here is be able to be vulnerable with each other and with ourselves.
What I love about what you said, Chris, is it kind of made me think about this reality that if anybody challenges me on, we might fist fight. No, I'm just kidding. But I truly feel like we could all agree humans will typically take the easiest route to accomplish something. It is typically within our nature to take the easy route. And I think that with the creation of AI, we now have the easiest route to do a lot of things. It's not just like spell check, right? It's not just spell check. We have an easy route to where we don't even have to think as much as we used to. And so I think, Chris, you're spot on that the consequence of that is going to be that we continue to lose the desire to do hard things. We will continue to see a societal dwindling of the concept of taking the harder road. Like we are not in 10 years, if we're not careful, if things like the human intelligence movement don't put the spotlight on taking the hard road, on developing something like creativity or connection, on pushing past some of our barriers and boundaries. If we don't do that, if movements don't do this, we're going to see our society like lose the ability to do hard things and to take the hard road when the easy road is just so present.
I couldn't agree more. And the irony is I think people often confuse like something that's easy, that it's efficient or effective.
Right.
We don't even get to effective. But you know how many times like you create some AI output. Oh, this was easy. I've got my entire business plan. I got a go-to-market strategy, I got everything. But the amount of time it takes somebody like me reading that slop as someone that has to help you make a decision, well, that's not efficient. And then the amount of time you have to take editing, that's not efficient either. So, what goes in is probably more important than what comes out. And that's life advice, not just for prompting things like artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what goes in is more important than what comes out. I think, Arvin, something that you made me really stop and think about, okay, what sets someone apart from someone who wants the easy route versus doing hard things. And I think it is about, at least in our education system, the conditions that we create for productive struggle, for failure, for building perseverance. And we've talked a lot in this redesign series about the need to rethink the conditions that students are in our schools, because I believe that we at times set them up for the easy route. What is the easiest way to get my homework done, this assignment for tomorrow? What's the easiest way to study so that I can pass this test, versus putting struggles in front of kids that allow them to really, really tap into who they are, their grit, their perseverance, their resiliency. I think we've got a real, and I echo, like, the movement is a solution to that challenge or that problem. And I think it's pervasive across society right now.
Yeah, if I was to try to summarize what I think I was trying to say, is that because the question is, when we talk about the human intelligence movement, what is it that we're trying to protect? I feel like I could confidently say a huge part of what we're wanting to protect is the mindset that doing difficult things is good. We're trying to protect the idea that easy is not always right. That sometimes, going back to the basics and like the human counterforce idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
AI is all about like speed and whatnot. Like, maybe we do need to slow down. Like it may be good to sit down, like Chris said, and write that business plan from the word and sentence number 1, so that way you can learn during the journey to sentence number 1,000. And that what you're learning all the way to sentence 1,000 is so much more valuable than the end product as a whole. That's what I think.
I want to jump in here with just some of the things, some of our community sharing. Jason Blair would agree with you, I think, Arvin, because he talks about that part of the reason we might not be doing hard things is because we need purpose and meaning behind those hard things. And just this crisis in our society of valuing hard work is something he's talking about. And Mark is talking about, Dr. Mark Zeller is saying, you glimpse into the future. You're the cracked crystal ball here, Arvin, of the future. And that if humans turn to AI for everything, they'll be less inclined to take that hard road, which is where learning happens. It's in growth, it's in struggle that learning happens. I mean, think about the hardest things that you've endured, that you've encountered in your work, and the amount of learning that came from that. I think we could all agree and tell a story of a time when learning was hard and what we were doing was hard, and the greatest learning came from it.
And I'm going back to something, Arvin, that you said in one of the episodes that is one of my favorite things. And you're like, if you haven't been through something, like, I don't trust you. And I think that's exactly why, because it's in those moments that we do grow and we do learn.
Yeah, and can I just make a request, because this is such an unscripted route that we took to get here, because this is not the plan. But I'm really curious, do we have anything in our messaging or marketing that talks about like protecting the hard road, like the difficult road? If not, we probably need to do like a whole oh my gosh. We could do a whole series. Oh my God, we do a whole series on taking the hard road and the benefits of it. I don't know. I'm just tossing it out there. I don't know.
No, it's totally awesome.
I'm here.
And I think when the question was about what we protect, right? And I see great comments and I see purpose. These things are super important. But I think when I look at things, I work with a lot of startups, right? So at the Founder Institute, we have something called the Entrepreneur DNA Test. If anybody's interested in taking this, no charge, find me on the internet. I'll have you take it. We use this as our entrance exam, for lack of better terms. Now, this was developed in conjunction with Dr. Jordan Peterson. Yes, he may be controversial ideologically, but when it comes down to human psychology, he's one of the leaders of this. And what we determine is we measure how effective our courses are going to be in that person's life and launching their business within a year. And then we also measure how distracting they're going to be to the other people trying to learn. And based on those results, now I'm like, okay, that seems to be easy. Then I took this test, right? And I got a 0 on trust, a 0 on emotional control, and a very low score on perseverance. Now, these were the things I defined my life on, right? Now, I immediately said, well, I don't believe this. And I lost my mind. And I basically said, I'm not going to work with startups anymore. So now I realize it's true, right? Everything they said was accurate. But you see, what I realized is that at the end of the day, what I'm scared and what I want to see us protect more than anything is the human's ability to understand how, right? And you can tell a lot, like how somebody is in perseverance is because they understand how to get somewhere. How they are in resilience is because they understand what it's like when things were bad before and they understand that there was a day after that. You see, and with passion, so many people come and it's like, passion's just not enough. I mean, you can do a lot, you can have success with passion, but it's not going to matter the way you think. That's your kind of like what and when and where. But then you get into purpose. I see purpose talked a lot about in the comments team tonight. Purpose is your why. Right? I spent so long in purpose trying to figure out why do I even do any of the things that I do? But then I realized there's one additional step. You see, if you want to change the world, you have to have mission, right? And I'm not talking about a mission statement. I'm not talking about some words on your website. Mission to me is the operationalization of your passion and your purpose. That is where the how exists without any uncertainty. And if we as society stop remembering how we understand doing things and how we get there, we're in trouble. So that's the thing I want to protect. Humans' understanding of how.
Yeah. So good. I love it. I love it. I love it. That just made so much sense, the why, how, and the what together. I love it. I see a couple more comments. Michelle, do you want to read any of those out?
Yeah, just that doing hard things, that learning behind doing hard things is important. That again, that purpose, like we see Alan shouting out in big bolds that students do not see a purpose for education. And I think that mirrors exactly what you just said, Chris. And if we continue to strip away that purpose and almost become rote and automated, and then all of a sudden the why is no longer there, the mission is no longer there. And I think we're on, like, yes, AI is pervasive right now and has accelerated this, but it's not like we haven't been on this trajectory with social media, with even how family dynamics have changed. I don't know. I don't even know if I want to bring this up because I don't want to take us down this other road, but I just was talking to someone the other night about, does anybody on this call remember having to ask to be excused from the dinner table each night?
Yeah.
Good. Yes. Yeah, Jena's like me. Like I
make my kids. Yeah, we don't get up.
Just that fact that the institution of sitting down for dinner and family dinners together, and I don't know, like that connection that would come from being together. Like, we've lost some of that. We're so busy, we're here and there and everywhere, and that's brought different value to our lives. But I think that need for human connection has been slowly being eroded away. And it's not just about AI. Our society as a whole has kind of lost touch about what it means to be human and what are the uniquely human things that we bring.
I can really agree with that. And it's, you bring up the dinner table, and that's just the stage of life I'm in right now with 2 little kids. And it's something that I noticed. It had nothing to do with technology. It's just busy life. And something that I noticed was that we were losing that connection and we weren't slowing down. We were doing more dinners on the go. And it's why I re-implemented the whole, we're sitting down, I'm cooking dinner, we're all together at the table, you cannot get up until we're all done eating, and just to reinforce the connection, because I think we have to force those moments of slowing down and being together.
That's a bar. I love that. One of the things that we've kind of been talking about is like the behind the scenes of the movement, right? And like how that translates to like the reality. We are kind of in the middle of this tension where, AI is growing fast. We're kind of struggling with the fact that humanity, or our skills and our awareness, isn't necessarily growing at the same speed, right? And so because of that, the human intelligence movement is going to have to evolve. Right now, it feels like we're in the messy middle, like we're rebuilding from the inside out. And so it's kind of messy. Can anyone here speak to, what are we evolving from and into? I feel like we started out with why are you guys all smiling with that question? All the three of them just started smiling.
Yeah, we're ready for that, brother.
Okay. No more context. Y'all go. And anyone who's watching and listening, please feel free to hop in here too. Please. All right, go.
I think I'm going to go first because I don't want Chris to steal what I have to say. He can come up with something different. So when I first started at the movement, I think Michelle I feel like I got to watch this vision happen for her, where she saw this need for action. And I think that my role started slowly I don't even want to say slowly. It started rapidly evolving from that point. And it was kind of this, I'm going to probably use like touchy words for Chris. He's going to tear them up. But it was kind of going from using or doing things effectively versus efficiently. And while we had processes, like we were implementing processes, we weren't doing actionable things. So I think that that's where this whole transformation is coming from. And we are in the messy middle right now.
But it's because of people like you as to why we even have the ability to make these changes, Jena. So like, I appreciate being in the middle. I think it was in my first meeting with Michelle where I said, you're doing a bunch of things at the Human Intelligence. I'm so impressed. But there's a difference between doing things and getting stuff done, right? And at the end of the day, sometimes there's a large gap between that. There wasn't a large gap here. Right? Some of the smartest people I've met, not just in education, everything. I sit in the research committee meetings of this great organization, meet brilliant people, right? That come with real intention. And the one-on-one meetings I've had, the board, the people I've met, everybody's in it for the right reasons. But you see, in the startup world, like I try to tell people often, it's easy to have short-term success. Really, all you have to have is an idea, right? And some sort of platform to talk about it. We've got that. We've got a great idea. And long-term success requires just a little bit more. You see, you can't just have an idea. You have to have now a solution and a plan to get there. But you see, if we want to change the world, right, it's not just having an idea or a solution. We actually have to solve something, right? So at the end of the day, this organization is putting together like such amazing minds. Like I've gone through and I've reached out to some of the members and talked to them. And we were adjacent from them all being together in the rooms that mattered in the way that they could contribute the most. So that was one of the first things we set out to do. Like in the startup world, you can tell within 5 minutes if a company is going to be successful by how well they know their customer. It's the same principle here. And I sat down with Michelle and Jena and the team, and I said, what are the things that the members actually need to have success in their journey that they're going towards? A lot of people are building programs in the schools, right? Like I just met with Alan, the one who was on here the other day. Here's a person down in the Fort Worth district, right? All the way down in Texas. And that district has had its challenges. Matter of fact, it was recently taken over by the state. But that doesn't dissuade Alan. You see, Alan's like, listen, we got to figure out how to bring messaging to kids when they're younger, give them an opportunity to actually perhaps start their own initiatives, take charge, help them with the future. And then he sat down. He's like, he doesn't have anything to gain from this directly. He's a teacher, right? He has a lot going on. But you see, it's people like Alan that need to be connected to the room with maybe somebody that has this experience in research or this experience in operationalizing something. When you put those things together, especially people that would never be in the same room, that's what this organization's doing in its change. And I'm so grateful to be part of.
Yeah, I'll say this. First of all, I couldn't agree more. I feel like if I can say what you just said in a different way, I'd say it like this. I think the human intelligence movement started out identifying the issues in the chaos. I think that there was a collective conscious that came together. That sounds so crazy, new agey or whatever, I don't know, but came together and also we're experiencing this issue. We're experiencing the integration of AI, and there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of unknown. And so a lot of the work that I think was done was bringing the minds together and everybody kind of sharing from their perspective what it is that they're seeing in these different verticals and in these different companies, different roles, whatever. And then it's like we're taking all of that information, all that perspective, and we've been compiling it and compiling it and compiling it, and then using that to design things like the framework and whatnot. And I feel like what we are evolving into is what I'm most excited about is kind of the frontline defense for human skills. We are going to be, I feel like, a collective of people, high functioning individuals that care deeply about the human experience, high functioning people who care deeply about protecting our kids, our students, and protecting their future, and making sure that they do not fall prey to what is going to happen if the world just keeps going the way that it's going, which is losing the ability to do hard things. I feel like we're evolving into something that is not just going to be identifying problems, but providing solutions, providing frameworks, and providing content, thought leadership, and communities where we can kind of discuss, dissect, and then do something about a lot of these issues.
Absolutely. Well said. I think you echoed what Chris said perfectly. I have as the person that work to really launch this and get that meeting of the minds. What did you say? Collective consciousness. It was like on a bench in San Diego. Anyway, I think it started off so strong with so many people, so eager, so excited. And I hear what Chris is saying around, we knew there was a problem to solve, but we didn't really know how we were going to do that, what we were going to do, what impact we were going to make. It became it was so big, and running, I've learned so much about leading in a volunteer organization, and as a volunteers, people get burned out. They either get burned out, life happens, they move on to a new job, like things happen when you are a volunteer. And so I think it's important to remember that every single person that is part of this movement is contributing and volunteering their time and energy in some way or another. And, leading a group of passionate people is amazing to do. I'll never forget, the number of people when I would talk about the human intelligence movement that would say to me yeah, but what do you do? It sounds like it's very existential, Michelle, but what do you do? And I could never really answer that question. And what I am just thrilled about as we evolve is now we have something to say, this is what we do.
Yeah.
And we are building our action collective to be able to be the people that not only come together as a community, but now create action. We've been creating a lot of awareness and thought leadership, and now it is time to generate all of that momentum and put action behind it. And so I think that's the next evolution, is how do we bring action to this, actionable efforts to this work that really make change? We've gathered the collective consciousness. We've figured out what's important, what our purpose is, what our mission is, and now we're perfectly positioned to bring action to the space.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. Which brings me to the next question. And everybody watching or listening, actually, we've got a couple comments down there. Thank you, Dr. Mark. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Saad. Thank you, Linda and Jason. Appreciate you guys commenting in here. I want you guys to chime in on this question. From the perspective of human intelligence and the idea of developing, protecting, and promoting human intelligence, what kind of future are we going to build if we do it right? We're talking about the action. We're talking about the things that we're doing. What kind of future? What are we going to see? What can we expect to be built out of a movement that is focused on human intelligence?
That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Chris, you probably got this one.
Well, I mean, there's so many layers to the question.
I know, I don't even know where to start.
For me, I always look for evidence of outcomes, right? So how do we know that we're actually moving in the right direction? And, there's so many things out here now. I mean, everybody's got a framework. Everybody's got, there's so much. So how do we know what's good? How do we know what matters? How do we know what's right? These are all like fundamental questions. Well, we know by asking people that are smarter than us, right? And what I've noticed about this organization, I can go anywhere up and down the member roster and find someone that's smarter than me at something, and I can ask them directly. And I remember I was sitting in a research committee the other day, and Sean, he's a member of the research committee, brilliant individual. And at the beginning, it was a couple minutes early. Nobody was there yet. And he's like, Chris, I wanted to tell you why I'm here, right? Why I'm on the research committee. And when I got done hearing his perfect explanation, like I wanted to cheer, like, yes. I'm like, has anyone ever asked you that? And it was clear. Nobody did, right? And that's to nobody's fault. Sometimes things move so quickly that we stop not long enough to even ask that question. Matter of fact, in society nowadays, we're all so focused on what makes us different, right? Like, this is why my company's number one. This is why our movement's better than the next movement. If we all take a moment to just like slow down and look for what makes us the same, right? Everything changes. And that's what we're doing here. We ask members, well, what makes our mission here the same as your mission? Why are you here? Because until we ask that, how are we supposed to know how we can help and how they can help us? And I think that discovery has been something that we've been doing over the last couple months that has been game-changing, not just for the organization, in my own personal life. I've learned so much about this industry, about what matters to people. And I think the more that we continue to, everyone thinks the answers that people give is what matters. It's the questions that matter. Listen to questions more.
That's a bar. That's a bar. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love it. It's not about, people think it's about the answers that people give, but it's more about the questions. I feel like we can apply that in every area that we've talked about on this whole entire series and this whole podcast. Somebody else hop in here.
Chris, I knew that impacted you because we actually got on a call shortly after that, and you brought this up to me. And just taking the time, again, slowing down and hearing people and listening people and being able to make the connections there, I think is what forms the experience. And it kind of personalizes, forms that human aspect of it to go from a movement to actually having connection with people.
I love it.
We're starting to see a couple of things in the chat. Jason talks about a deeper focus on interconnectedness. I'm seeing that as a common thread tonight. The game of school. Oh, Jason is kind of tapping into the next series, game on. But basically, the game of school is so isolated and individualistic that the future will be about collective intelligence, not
Wow.
individual intelligence. And Alan's talking a lot about how the future of humans is light years ahead of where we are today. And that as we learn to use the tools that we have and that are created and available, the thing that we can do will be amazing as long as we're responsible and ethical. I think I think one of the things when that question that we asked, and we're looking for still more people to kind of chime in about, with this movement, what kind of future are we building as a result of the human intelligence movement? And I think for me, while we have really worked to broaden this movement, not just in education, but society, workforce as a whole, what I would say is what I'm in it for most of all is educational reform, is thinking differently about what learning needs to look like, what it feels like to go to school, what is the purpose of school, kind of reinventing that both for students, teachers, and administrators. I think impact from this movement would be that our educational systems begins to shift and values human intelligence as much as knowledge. And I think that this movement really has an opportunity to propel us out of the knowledge age into the intelligence age. And
let me ask this, Michelle, to that point. Wonderful. How do we know we have a victory? Like you said, what would be great is there's reform, right? There's change. Yep. I'm seeing change. What do you need to see for us to say, look, we succeeded here?
I think something that would show me a victory is if we held ourselves accountable to ensuring that students had human intelligence at every grade, every trajectory of their K-18 career. And so to me, that looks like measuring those skills and ensuring that students have those intelligences as they graduate. We are so focused on being college and career ready through standardized knowledge-based assessments, but we are not doing anything that holds our system as a whole accountable to building human intelligence. So that would be my answer.
Perfect.
I love that.
You're gonna help me make this happen?
Oh yes, I just wanted to know what the instructions were so I can get started right after this.
Yeah, Chris is noting this. This will happen immediately.
Before we hop into those last couple of comments that just came in, I want to answer that question, and I feel like I wrote a blog post that I haven't posted yet, but it's about black holes and human creativity and adaptability. And I'm going to kind of use this analogy that kind of came to me. I feel like if the human intelligence movement is successful in building the future that we want to see, or a future that is beneficial, I think we will see in large scales people being less enamored by and less attracted to how amazing a machine can think, and be more attracted to how amazing a human being or a child can think. I think that if we really do our jobs well, we will be able to kind of bring back this curiosity, this awe, this wonder in what the human mind can produce and create. The same way that we have people that are obsessed with the newest AI thing. Oh, did you see what Canva created? Oh, did you see Google Slides? Whatever. I feel like if we do our jobs correctly, we will see the same amount of buzz and attention and luster and sizzle reels about what human beings have been able to create, or the questions that we've been able to ask.
I think that's super powerful, Arvin, because what you just drew attention to is the biggest gap, right? So yes, these things are amazing, but they're just tools, as Michelle said, right? That's one of the things that differentiates humans in almost every other living thing that's ever existed on this planet, our ability to understand and utilize tools. And it's no different no matter how technologically advanced it gets. But it's one thing that's worth noting, no matter how smart AI is, the best models on the planet right now, they don't conceptualize anything. And we cannot be fooled to think that the output is something that was conceptualized. Matter of fact, the closest things to conception into that was the prompt that you put in. They're creating patterns, right? They're looking for the next syllable. And something that is innately human is the ability to conceptualize. That's what gotten us this far. That's what allowed us to invent the wheel, discover fire, even beyond the technology that we're on tonight. Somebody conceptualized that. And we need to not forget that without having the ability to even think creatively and understand things and know what it's like to belong, if you don't have these things as society, nobody can conceptualize anything.
Yes. So spot on. One of the things in kind of this analogy of black holes is like this. So we can't actually, with any of our technology, identify a black hole in space. It's just not possible. There's light that gets sucked into it. But what we do and what we can do, how we currently identify black holes, is that we look at the movement of stars around a lack of light. And that is how we're able to identify where a black hole is, because we're able to see stars and galaxies and planets or whatever getting moving in a rotation and getting sucked in, whatever. And I feel like when we're talking about human intelligence and the end goal, I feel like there's a little bit of it being amorphous and ambiguous, that we may not be able to fully identify the middle, but we can see how students are being adaptable. We can see how empathy is rising. We can see how connection is shifting. And I feel like there's so many things that we can identify that will move around the target goal. But a part of what we're doing is we have to identify what those things are. We have to identify these things and then see, okay, how are they shifting? And I think that will help us realize whenever we're getting to the end goal. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody else, but it makes sense to me.
You know, we have the STEM programs in schools in the Chicago area, my company. We came up with this model, and one of my best friends of all time, he's the teacher in the school. And he came over to give me the latest briefing on what's happening in the classroom. And he said that in the debugging class, this is for second grade kids learning robotic mice, he said they learned all of it. It was amazing. So what do I do next? And he said that then he set it up for failure and started teaching these kids debugging. And then I was expecting to hear some technical explanation. But what he said was, it's amazing to see how much grit the kids are developing through debugging, or the resilience they have, not giving up on the coding project because they know that they can fix something. And it's one of these things that is really the most human thing that you possibly can have. And one of the things we talked about at the movement is, you know, in Illinois, for instance, you know, you have to make sure that your curriculum is aligned with the state standards of science and math and this and that and the other, just like everywhere across the country. But where's the measurement for human alignment of the course? You see, even in this debugging in robotic mice in a STEM course, some truly human things happen in that room amongst these kids. So that's one of the things we're working on right now. How do we align things like curriculums and validate that, listen, there is human intelligence alignment here too. We're not going to turn our back on the things that make us who we are. So look forward to that.
Right. That's exactly like, how do we make sure that focus on human intelligence isn't the nice to have, but the must have, isn't the soft skill that we can do when we have extra time, but it is the priority. And I just continue to go back to that need for accountability. And I think our system right now holds itself accountable to things. And so in my mind, it makes sense. Like, let's hold ourselves accountable to human intelligence as well. There might be another solution, another way, but I think it would mean like completely reinventing the system, the bureaucracy of our education system. And so for me, it's about how do we find the entry points in our current system to shift, to push, and to shift to make change for students and for learners.
I actually love that. And so I want to toss this out, not only to us, but to everyone that's watching. What does it look like to get involved in this kind of work? If you're not a policymaker, if you can't make massive shifts in a district or in a company, what does it look like for the average person or for anybody listening and watching to get involved in the work of human intelligence?
I think you just do it where you're at. Whatever system you're a part of, whatever you're involved in, I mean, that's anything. You can be a stay-at-home mom and implement this in your life. I mean, there's no system too small. There's no environment too small to begin implementing that.
Yeah.
I think Jena nailed it right there. You come as you are, and that's the thing. There's so many things I can't do, right? I mean, I wish I was good at so many things that I'm not even marginally acceptable at. But I know that there's somebody in this organization that's probably great at it. So it's important to be authentic about what you can do, what you're good at, but most importantly, what actually gives you purpose, right? Because just because I can build a website doesn't mean I'm excited about it. I'm almost unmotivatable. Like everyone thinks they can motivate me, right? I'm easy to inspire, and then I become self-motivatable. So it's about surrounding yourself with people that are inspirational towards what you want to do, because I promise, if you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, soon enough, you become smarter. You become quicker, more efficient. You use AI prompts less because you're writing things for the first time. So sometimes it's about finding a tribe, and I don't want to use that language here when it boils down to it. But at the end of the day, there's such a collection of diverse minds in here. Just this week alone, I met with college professors, deans, superintendents. Like I mentioned, my buddy Alan down in the Fort Worth district, moms and dads, parents, right? And all of them are the same because they care about it. Otherwise we wouldn't be in the room, right? But they all have something different to add. And some people are like, well, I don't know I'm smart enough to be in the room. Well, it's not hard to look. I have 5 college credit hours left. I didn't even technically finish college, but I was the top-rated professor at a university, right? When they said I would never be able to do that. It's because I found the things that I was capable of teaching, and as opposed to giving up on the dream. And that's what you have to do to come into this organization. Be prepared to work, but we're going to fit it around your availability to get things done.
Well, and to build off that, I think it's about tapping into each person's unique talents. Like I always say, if you have a small amount of time or a great amount of time, what is the talent that you have to share? What would you like to contribute? And so it's like you said, Jena, start where you are and bring that talent to others. And then that collaboration, that collectiveness will start to make change. And so I think as we start to redesign and rebuild, we're looking for those people that want to come alongside us and bring their talents to the organization and be able to create those actionable things that will push on what our mission says, what matters most. And so we'll drop some things in the chat here, and there's always on our brilliant website where you can find all the information, but just letting us know, raising your hand and saying, this is what a talent that I have, this is how I want to contribute, and being part of something bigger than just yourself, being part of a community really does make a difference and it propels change.
I'm going to throw this out there just because I think that there's some people who feel overwhelmed by even that. Like, what is my talent? That seems like a scary place for some people to bring forward and say, this is my talent, because I think it puts them in a vulnerable position to say, hey, I'm good at this. Now give me something to do. However, I think as a leader and having been able to work underneath you, Michelle, I think you do a great job at pulling people's talents out. So I think that if that's a scary place for somebody to start, I give them 15 minutes on a call with you, and then you could tell them what they need to be doing and what their talent is, because you just bring that out in people.
Oh, thank you.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
I love that. I will also say that made me think about the potential. Maybe one of these days or months ahead, we do a series, like a mini series, where we have people who want more help or need some perspective on how to develop human intelligence in whatever role or space they're in. And we bring them on live and we have them share with us a couple questions. We ask them a couple questions, and then we all together, everyone in the comments, everyone here on the live show, give them some tidbits, some nuggets on how they can incorporate developing human intelligence or prioritizing human intelligence in their everyday life. I'd love to see like a random teacher. I'd love to see just a dad, a mom. I'd love to see a bus or whoever could come online, and us all as a community help that one individual learn how to prioritize human intelligence more. That would be dope. I'd be so here for that.
Well, Arvin, I think one of the things that I want to go back to is this. For the last 2 years, people have asked me, well, what do you do? as a human intelligence movement, what do you do? And like, you just frame something that we could do. And it's amazing. Like if you think about that, the ability to help people see what makes them uniquely human and the talents they have, and to think about how to cultivate that's brilliant. And at the end, what I want to say is right now we do some of that through our speaking, through our consulting, through our collaboration. We finally, as an organization, have those entry points for what we do. And so we are at like this turning point where it is time now to start doing some of those things, taking that idea that you have and working with an organization to make that come alive. And it's really about finding the people that need us and want to engage with us in various ways, whether again, it's through speaking, consulting, collaboration, research, any of those. We are ready to do all of those things. And so what makes me, and maybe it's time for unavoidable truths, because I think I probably got mine. I was just about to say it.
Okay,
Right, yeah. Sorry, guys, technical difficulties.
It's time for unavoidable truths. So I'll keep going. Okay, so unavoidable truth time. Here's what my unavoidable truth is, that for a really long time, people asked me, what do you do? And it just ate me up to have like this entire organization with no action, and to know that we are at a place where we do things and we are going to make change and use the momentum that we have. And so I don't know. I don't know why this is an unavoidable truth, but tonight it is my truth to just know that this journey has been messy. Leading an organization like this has been the best thing that has ever happened to me. And we are perfectly positioned to really make change in education, in society, in the workforce, and looking for people to come alongside us.
I love that. I'm going to go next. Anybody who's watching, please feel free to toss in your unavoidable truth, something you discovered or revelation you came to during this conversation that you feel like is a truth that is unavoidable. People may be trying to avoid it. People may be trying to silence it, but it is a truth that will come out sooner or later. Mine is this. I feel like in this conversation, it is something that's become so clear to me. And it's this concept of people choosing the harder road, people choosing the more difficult path. I know we kind of like touched on it, but I feel like there's a whole rabbit hole that we could go down about that. And then I think connecting that towards what we were just talking about with this black hole concept, I feel like one of the characteristics that will orbit our end goal will be how many people are choosing the harder road. I feel like when we see that number stop decreasing and start increasing in our society, people actively choosing to do difficult things so they can learn and grow and develop skills. I feel like when we see that stop decreasing and start increasing, that is going to be a sign that we are winning this battle.
I'll go next. I think that's great. Arvin and Michelle both. I think Jena said it best, right? I listened to all the things that matter here. Tonight, so many great things were said by all of you, but Jena said this, come as you are. And I can't get over this, right? Because so many people think that they're not qualified, right? That they don't meet a standard. They don't know enough. They don't have enough time or whatever. And they're wrong. They're wrong. We have this position paper that's out, and it says a bunch of amazing things. But where I learned the most from was reading all of the questions that people answered that made up this thing. And sometimes the question was, what does it mean to be human? Right. And now some people may not have the time to write a full paper, but they had enough time to answer that question. And because they answered that question, it helped develop a paper that helped develop a school of thought, that helped develop the way that we're doing things, that helped create more action. And you come as you are, and you can leave how you've always wanted to be, is the way I'm looking at it. So I really appreciate Jena bringing it up. And one other thing I can't disregard is the fact that tonight was the night that I realized why Michelle is doing this, right? She cares about education reform. So I can sit here all day long and say, listen, we got to ask the right questions. But sometimes we forget that if we're going to ask questions, we got to ask them to everyone. It doesn't matter if you're in charge. It doesn't matter if they're leader of the room. I did not know that. I did not ask Michelle the question, and for that I failed. But now I know. So we're going to get there. Thank you.
That's so great. I love that. I would say my unavoidable truth is I'm throwing it back to what you said earlier in the conversation, Chris, about having your purpose and knowing that, but then not missing out on the step of operationalizing that purpose and having that mission, taking those action steps. Because for me, that puts language behind everything that we've been doing for this process. It's like, well, what are we doing this for? Why? We all have ideas. We know what we want, but why are we here? Why are we showing up every day? Why are we getting on all of these meetings and taking this time? And it is to put action behind our purpose. And I just think that that's such an important step that oftentimes gets skipped over or just missed out on completely.
I agree. I love it. These are all really good unavoidable truths. Thank you guys for sharing.
One more, Arvin, that just came in from Alan. His unavoidable truth is I seem to always choose the harder road or create my own harder roads. However, I do not give up to reach the top of the mountain.
So let me say this, Alan, thank you for saying that. If in the startup world, if you're not causing 30, 40, 50% of the failures, you're not innovating enough, right? And sometimes those things feel horrible. I'm making it hard for myself, but I promise you don't know how to make it easy and you know what hard feels like, right? So at the end of the day, keep moving forward because it's hard for everyone. And it's especially hard for the kids that you are trying to impact. And that's why you're here. And that's why we're going to get there.
Here's another one, Dr. Mark, an unavoidable truth. Humans had little to no guidance as AI rolled out. It takes courageous groups like this to commit to asking the right questions to illuminate a human-centered path.
I love it. I love it. I love that idea of illuminating a human-centered path. I love that. Really quick, let's go ahead. Oh, we got one more. Curiosity plus resiliency. Let me start over. Curiosity plus resilient plus goal-oriented mindset is all we need in 2025 and beyond. Curiosity, resilient, and goal-oriented mindsets. Love it. Thank you guys, everyone, for hopping in here. Really quickly, Chris and Jena, Chris first, can you share with the audience how they can find out more about you? How can they follow your journey? Where can they find the stuff that you are talking about?
I'm in a lot of different places, but find me through the Human Intelligence Movement because that's where my heart, mind's at, my soul for that matter. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm very easy to find. But if you want to work with me on anything, Human Intelligence Movement is my home base. So let's change the world together. Thanks, Arvin.
I love it. Jena, where can they find you and learn more about you?
Yes, well, I do live and breathe for the Human Intelligence Movement. So you can find me there, and I'm on LinkedIn, just Jena Crossland on there. I will put links to me and Chris's LinkedIn in the comments once I actually end the stream.
Love it. And speaking of finding things or finding people, you can find this podcast on Spotify, LinkedIn Live, the Human Intelligence YouTube, and on TikTok, because we have a TikTok, and also Apple Podcasts. Okay. Jena, thank you so much for producing and starring at the same time. This was a new thing for all of us. I think it worked out really well. You are the bomb.com. Michelle, can you tell us what is up next for this podcast?
Oh my gosh, I am so beyond excited about our new FETC media partnership. So the Human Intelligence Movement and Unscripted Intelligence is officially a media partner with Community EDU and FETC. We couldn't be more excited about the opportunity to be alongside what an amazing organization in innovation and education and technology. And so we are starting a brand new series next week called Game On and Game Changers. I know. Game On. I'm so excited. Okay, let me start over. We are starting a new series next week called Game Changers, and we are going to be interviewing some phenomenal people that are shaking things up and making waves in education. We have two guests next week to kick off the series, Becky Keene and Rob Dixon. And believe me, Arvin, we are going to be talking about changing the game of education. We'll be doing this series for 6 weeks and then leading up to the conference. And then at the conference, this team is going on the road. So we will be on the conference floor interviewing and talking with people wonderful. And it's just going to be an amazing run between now and January 15th. So super excited. And it's just a great opportunity to amplify the message and bring people together and really make some change in education.
Yes.
I'm so excited for this coming up.
I'm so stoked too. I haven't been to FETC in a minute, but it is literally fire. It is awesome. I'll let you guys know right now, I'm trying to convince them to let us get some free tickets and give them away on air on one of the podcasts. I shouldn't even have said that out loud, but I'm trying to. So if y'all want that to happen, y'all send us messages saying this is what we need, this is what we need, and I'll send it to them, and hopefully we'll make it happen.
I love that idea, Arvin. Yes, let's just blow up social media with that.
Yes.
Can you give me McDonald's discounts too? Like if you got a formula.
Right. I'll send you the list of things I want for free.
Yeah, I want a Chick-fil-A sponsorship
yeah.
giveaway. That would be dope. Thank you guys so much for hopping in here. Thank you guys for tuning in live and responding to some of these questions and joining the community conversation. We will catch you all next time.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.